Hello again. So we are reading the book of Matthew. We are going to start with chapter 16 here, verse 1. And we're reading for the context to understand what's being said, what's going on, the events that are happening, and then see how that applies to us. Because it's important to understand what is happening, what's being said, and then how that applies to us. So again, the book of Matthew, chapter 16, I'm going to read verses 1 through 4 to get us started. And the Pharisees and Sadducees came, and to test him, Jesus, of course, they're trying to test him, they asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, "When it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening." Now this is an old thing that even I heard as a kid, before I'd ever read this, is that the saying is, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning, red sky in the evening, in the eve, sailor take leave. And what that meant was that a red sky in the evening meant that you were going to have good weather, and then a red sky in the morning meant that you were going to have bad weather. Okay, and obviously this was true always, or it is an actual thing. However that works. I'm not going to try to say how it works, but so Jesus is reminding them, well, you know this, when it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah. So he left them and departed. See, they're asking him to perform some sort of weird, on-the-spot miracle. I don't know if they want him to do like Moses and throw a staff down and have it be a snake, or what kind of sign they're looking for. But, I mean, he's already performing miracles and healings and all these other things, which are signs, and they should have recognized those, but they don't seem to recognize that. And then he's telling them that they will get the sign of Jonah, which is referring to him, dying and being in the earth and then coming back in 3 days. So that's what he's telling them, that they will not get any other sign than the sign of Jonah. And I think for us, that's what we're going to see nowadays in our lives. We really, truly are, we're going off the sign of Jonah and off the Word of God, and that's what we believe in. We're not believing in miracles and things like that, because that could be used as a way to trick you even. It's one thing if you believe in God and you pray for a miracle and somehow you get that miracle, no matter what route that comes to you. That's a wonderful thing. But we can't go chasing after miracles. We can't go chasing after people who do things that seem miraculous, because then you could easily be tricked into following the wrong things and chasing after the wrong things, and not chasing after God, which is what we should be doing. We should be following Jesus and the Word of God. So, alright, so now we're going to read verses 5 down through 12. When the disciples reached the other side, they had forgotten to bring any bread. Jesus said to them, "Watch and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees." And they began discussing it among themselves, saying, "We brought no bread." But Jesus, aware of this, said, "Oh, you of little faith, why are you discussing among yourselves the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive? Do you not remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, and how many baskets you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many baskets you gathered? How is it that you fail to understand that I did not speak about bread? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. So here, again, showing that the disciples, had just misunderstood something or not understood correctly. And we do this too at times. We don't understand or don't catch on, and we need something explained to us. And here Jesus is explaining to them, watch and beware the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And he meant the teachings of them, because you have to be aware of, and we need to always judge the teachings and the lessons that we get from people. We need to always judge those and look at those through the filter of the Word of God and make sure that it lines up, that it matches up, that it's correct. You can't just follow the teachings of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. These were two different sects. They had slightly different beliefs, and I may not remember all the details. The Pharisees were very much letter of the law on the Scriptures, and the Sadducees, they had some other differing beliefs, and I think they may not have even believed in the resurrection. They had differing beliefs. I can't get into all that right now because I don't remember all the details, but that is true. And so he was telling them to beware of that, and basically, I think, saying that you need to be aware. He doesn't say that you can't ever listen to them or pay attention to them, but just beware, be wary, and check what they say and what they teach versus the Word of God, because they were teaching traditions and other beliefs that did not come from the Scriptures and that were not of the Word of God. So that's what he was warning them about, and we should do the same today. All right, so still chapter 16. We're going to look at verses 13 through verse 20. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly charged the disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. So here we have Jesus saying, who do people say I am? And he's just trying to check the disciples out and see where they are, I believe. And Peter says, "Well, you are the Christ, you are the Messiah, you are the Son of God." And Jesus says that Peter is blessed because God has revealed that to him. All the disciples had seen the things that Jesus had done, and they had experienced all these things with Jesus. And maybe some of them also believed this but just didn't speak up. But Peter, being kind of the bold guy he is, he speaks up and says it like he sees it, which can be a great thing, which is a good thing in this case. And then Jesus says, "On this rock I will build my church." And what it is on this belief, on this understanding that Jesus is the Son of God. He is the cornerstone. He's the foundation of our belief and our church. See, our church, our real church, is the original church of Jesus and the disciples. And we'll get into that more as we move on. All these other things, all these other denominations and stuff, I'm not putting them down. I'm not saying there's anything totally wrong with them. But when they put out things that supersede the Word of God, then they're in the wrong in those areas. We should always be following the Word of God. Anybody can be in the church. The church is Jesus and his disciples, which includes all of us. That's the real church, okay? So anyway, but he's telling Peter, on this rock, this belief, on this foundation, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Well, Jesus' church is all of us believers, all of us that are his disciples, that are following him in our everyday lives. That is his church. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And we have those keys to the kingdom through our faith, through our love for each other, through our caring, through the wisdom and love of God, and how we love and take care of each other and take care of things here. That has an impact on the kingdom of heaven, because we are a part of the kingdom of heaven. It may not be, let me move this forward. I apologize that I did not have this in the right place already. But that is what it is. That's, how we're going to love and care about each other. That's going to be the same here and in heaven. And because we're going to follow, I know we're not perfect and we're not going to do things perfectly, but we're going to follow Jesus, and we're going to follow the golden rule and treat each other as we would treat ourselves, or as we would wish to be treated. And we're going to love one another and care for one another. So, no, we're not perfect, but nonetheless, as we do these things, that is also a reflection of how things would be in heaven. And it's also here, because the kingdom of heaven, in a spiritual sense, not in a physical sense, is here and now. We are a part of that kingdom. So that is also reflective of how we are and how we act. So I want to stop here, and when we come back, we'll continue and do the rest of this chapter. But thank you for listening, and God bless you.